coming up on this edition of Southwest TV News. The annual United Way Gala of Hope drew in a crowd to the event center in Swift Current. The gala evening has become the main fundraiser for the Swift Current United Way over the past 4 years, while honoring the numerous local agencies it supports in the community. Hockey fans gathered at the iPlex for an evening of WHL hockey to cheer on their hometown favorites, the Swift Current Broncos. And coinciding with the on-ice matchup was the Broncos Strong promotion. And we take a closer look at Swift Current's contribution to the various war efforts in this special documentary. Thanks for joining us here today. A gala evening helped to raise funds for the Swift Current and District United Way. We have more in today's top story. The annual United Way Gala of Hope drew in a crowd to the event center in Swift Current. The gala evening has become the main fundraiser for the Swift Current United Way over the past 4 years, while honoring the numerous local agencies it supports in the community. Following the format of previous years, the agenda included a video presentation. The short documentary, produced by Overtime Communications in partnership with SaskTel, focused on the Mamer family's story of addiction. At the center of the story is Michaela, a former Swift Current Comprehensive High School student and soccer player, who found herself at a crossroads after excessive alcohol and drug use. Now alcohol and drug-free for numerous years, Michaela and her parents had the courage to share their experience.
For me, it was important because I wanted the people that are going through this, like going through the addictions and all the heartache and heartbreak that you get, just knowing that there can be hope at the end of it. And because Michaela's done so well and had to go through so many trials and tribulations, it just meant something to let people know there is hope.
I think that it's just so needed in this community to open people's eyes that addiction is here. It's here, right? It's in Swift Current, it's in Saskatchewan, and there's more that needs to be done. But I hope, because a lot of the people know who I am, that it just sheds a light into what it was like, right? And what it's like for a lot of people who hide behind it.
Heartwarming stories which need to be shared to not only shine a spotlight on the Swift Current United Way, but also the many social issues that are common in our society and are the reason why many in the community support the gala every year.
You know, there are difficult subjects, but it's real and it's true things that are happening in our community. It's to people that are part of our community. So I think it's really important that we acknowledge that what's going on, and whether it's mental health or domestic abuse. With Michaela's story this year with substance abuse, again, they're difficult subjects, but it's very relevant, and we have to be aware of what's going on. It's the only way we can do things, change things in our communities to help those people that are being affected by those things.
And in the coming days, you can watch the Mamer family's story of addiction on SaskTel Max Local On Demand, Channel 47. Hockey fans from across the province came together in support of a special fundraiser for Stars Ambulance. We have all the details in this report. Hockey fans gathered at the iPlex for an evening of WHL hockey to cheer on their hometown favorites, the Swift Current Broncos. And coinciding with the on-ice matchup was the Broncos Strong promotion, an evening which brought together fans of both the Swift Current and Humboldt Broncos, and several of the players of the former Humboldt team lineup. And along with the unveiling of a special Broncos banner was the fundraising and awareness campaign of the evening, as hockey fans learned more about such agencies as the Saskatchewan Brain Injury Association and Canadian Blood Services. Raffles and the auctioning off of specially designed jerseys were also a focus of the evening, with the proceeds benefiting Stars.
When we were choosing a charity, it was, we're trying to find something that everyone can relate to. Anyone who's lived around Swift Current knows that we're the major center in the vicinity here. So stars is something that a lot of people know someone who's used. You know, until you know someone who's used it, maybe it's harder to connect to. But I think it's one that everyone can connect to, and I think it's something that everybody can feel good about giving to.
A fundraiser which hits close to home for Gobiel and others attending the Broncos Strong promotion.
My brother was in the bus crash in April, and he's working on recovering from his injuries right now, and you know, he gets a little bit stronger every day, and you know, it's always interesting to see the changes that he makes every time I'm able to visit.
I just wanted to support the town that we used to live in, and one of the girls that I babysat, her boyfriend was killed in the accident. Any tragedy brings people closer together, but because, you know, hockey community, you stick together, and this just made Swift Current and Humboldt, I think, a little bit stronger connection.
Thanks to the generosity of game patrons and other donors, the Broncos Strong Night raised $28,750, with the majority of the funds allotted to Stars Air Ambulance, and the remainder donated to the FAV Foundation, Hockey Give Blood, and the Saskatchewan Brain Injury Association. With Remembrance Day on the horizon, we take a look back now at Swift Current's contribution to the various war efforts.
It's a long way to Tipperary, it's a long way to go, it's a long way.
Swift Current's military history dates back almost as far as the city itself. On August 4th, 1914, Britain's involvement in the escalating conflict in Europe ushered Canada and the growing city of Swift Current into the First World War. Swift Current sent 3 contingents of men to the front lines before the largest battalion, the 209th, was formed. The first group of men to leave Swift Current were the reservists, the 27th Light Horse Regiment, who were given an elaborate send-off on August 23, 1914. By May, the newly formed 209th Battalion reached their target of 1,000 men. They trained and were billeted in Swift Current until the spring of 1915. At first, men were eager to sign up and serve king and country, but enlistment declined quickly after word came back of horrendous casualties. In 1917, Ottawa imposed conscription or compulsory military service in order to honor Canada's commitment of 500,000 men. For over 4 years, World War I raged on, leaving in its wake a toll of death and destruction such as the world had never seen. On November 11, 1918, the Allies and Germans signed the armistice to end the fighting of the First World War. It was considered to be the war to end all wars, and yet, some 20 years later, Swift Current men were once again called upon to serve their country. 92-year-old D-Day veteran Hewitt Murch remembers.
So I just decided it was time to join the service. And deep down, I think Winston Churchill, with his speeches, had a lot to do with pushing a lot of us into the service. You know, he was one that we knew was going to come out right, and we wanted to back him up. At least that was in my feelings anyway. Like, I can still hear him talk.
We shall fight on the beaches, we shall fight on the landing grounds, we shall fight in the fields and in the streets, we shall fight in the hills, we shall never surrender.
In September 1939, Canada declared a state of war, standing up for its allies, summoning all its human, industrial, and financial resources in an ongoing war effort. Canada mobilized the mightiest military force in its history. At sea, on land, and in the air, Canada was involved in the great campaign that led to the fall of the German Reich and brought back peace. During the Second World War, The 27th Light Horse Infantry was renamed the 14th Canadian Hussars. In 1941, the regiment was mobilized in Swift Current, and its members joined with other personnel in England to form the 8th Reconnaissance Division, or 8th Recce. This group of men landed on the beaches of Normandy on D-Day.
D-Day was on June the 6th, 1944. I made it down to my tank and I got my vehicle, got the communications going again, and then of course we landed, and then we proceeded on up where our group were. You grew up fast, very fast.
During both the First and Second World War, Swift Current did its part. Victory bonds were sold to raise funds to assist in the effort. Each year, Swift Current gained its honor flag for reaching its annual campaign targets.
We were buying them ourselves, you know. Part of our pay went into victory bond, and I think the schools, even the school children, were putting their quarters and whatnot into victory bonds.
Swift Current and surrounding communities helped in whatever way they could.
We knew that they were working hard towards raising funds, you know, for the Red Cross. A lot of the ladies were doing knitting and whatnot. We waited for the mail from home. And there was parcels that came too. Dried, believe it or not, Lipton's noodle soup. That was going at the time. And that tasted pretty good, get some of that. And of course we must remember that if it hadn't been for the people working in the factories, the munitions and the machinery and whatnot, we could never have kept things going.
From 1940 to 1944, Swift Current also served as a training base for pilots with the British Royal Air Force Aerodrome. The city itself, with only 5,000 residents, soon enjoyed the economic benefits to hosting 1,500 fully employed young men. Swift Current's war efforts continued throughout the years, including the Korean War from 1950 to 1953, and peacekeeping missions around the world, including Cyprus, Serbia, and Egypt. The support has changed and evolved over the years, bringing us to today with modern-day conflicts in Afghanistan. Through it all, the one constant has been the Royal Canadian Legion Swift Current Branch number 56. Since 1926, the Legion has been the guardians of Remembrance, a driving force in the community. It started out as an old boys club in 1926, a place for veterans to share their stories with one another. Over time, the role of the Legion has changed. With veteran care, community service, and promoting remembrance, the Swift Current branch is an integral part of the community.
And that's why I think it's important that we are able to carry on with selling the wreaths and selling the poppies. And I must say that the cadets in here do a wonderful job. They help in all sorts of ways. We're lucky to have them.
Hewitt has been a member of the Legion for over 60 years. In 2012, during the visit of His Royal Highness Charles, Prince of Wales, Hewitt was awarded with the Queen's Jubilee Medal for military service.
But the Legion is still deep in my heart. It's been a good organization. And I hope that it can continue on because we need it.
Throughout the years, Swift Current remembers those who gave us the gift of freedom. Cenotaphs, monuments, and Remembrance Day services are a powerful way to continue the legacy. This war memorial stands first to honor Swift Current's own 209th Infantry Battalion in World War I, and to all veterans of World War II and all those who served in the Korean War. Built in 1927, wreaths are placed every Remembrance Day in November to remember the sacrifices that generations of Canadians have made for the peace and freedom we enjoy today. Swift Current's Mount Pleasant Cemetery acts as a memorial and final resting place for veterans from almost every conflict in which Canadians were engaged. The memory of their contributions and roles they played have been kept alive through a veterans tour hosted by the Swift Current Museum. As Swift Current approaches its centennial, we continue to honor the legacy of those who made the ultimate sacrifice.
Well, I think that the important thing is to remember those that gave their all, they gave their life. That's the most important thing about it, to remember those that gave the supreme sacrifice, and we should never forget them. And as long as I'm alive, I will never forget them.
Well, this brings to a close another episode of Southwest TV News, reporting the stories that matter to you. We always welcome your news tips. You can always reach us here at the studio by email or follow us on a range of social media. And be sure to join us daily online for the latest news from across Southwest Saskatchewan and so much more at southwesttvnews.com. Thanks for joining us here today. I'm Carol Andrews.